ho ho ho. No, not yet. Hi there, this is Scott Action Jackson, and for these set of videos, I guess you could call me Santa Scott again. Yeah, it's been a while since I just dubbed myself Santa Scott across these Christmas-type videos. Now, I'm hoping to get these started at the start of December, or at least published and put on YouTube. But as I stated, this is going to be the start of the Christmas Carol videos. I'm going to be starting off with the 1983 Mickey's Christmas Carol, which, to be honest, is the easiest one to sit through. It's only about 20-some minutes. Why did I pick this one first? Technically, it's one of the first, earliest ones I remember watching in the movie theaters. Because I think I saw this when it was shown before The Rescuers, or at least one of the re-releases in the movie theaters for The Rescuers. But, man, when I was a little kid, I enjoyed this. I even had a little plush that they had out, stuck in his, like, nightgown, or nighty thing. To me, this has always been a fun little version of A Christmas Carol. I need to start this off right off the bat. I know that there was a record made before this, which was Alan Young's first go at the Scrooge that we get to know as Scrooge McDuck. And in this one, we had different characters in different positions. I think there was like a few different ghosts of Christmases compared to the Mickey's Christmas Carol. And I know I'd be curious to actually listen through this, considering it was one of Alan Young's earliest recordings. And I think, if I read it right, the filmed version of Mickey's Christmas Carol is one of the last recordings of, I think it was the Donald Duck voice actor before he passed, or before he left and then passed. I forgot which way it went. Sorry if I got that wrong. So this actually starts off with an interesting Christmas song called "Oh, What a Merry Christmas Day." To be honest, I wouldn't mind hearing a more modern version of this. Not too modern, not techno bullshit version, but because it sounds like an interesting song that can be done great for the holiday season. We come to London Disney, more or less, where we see Ebenezer Scrooge walking to his work. Inside we see Bob Cratchit, who's Mickey Mouse. Shortly after Scrooge goes in, we get to see his nephew Fred, being Donald Duck. It's at this point that I very much enjoy what Alan Young did with Ebenezer Scrooge, or Scrooge in general, since he later went on to be Scrooge McDuck in DuckTales, which I guess we could thank this for. I kind of like the interaction here between kind of Donald Duck and Scrooge, soon to be McDuck. It kind of reminds me of the more recent DuckTales series. But as per the usual Christmas Carol routine, Nephew Fred invites Scrooge to his Christmas party, and Scrooge just, nope, out the door. And we get this duo that shows up to collect for the poor. Now, for the longest while, I had no freaking clue what these two were from. And then I tried looking them up. They're from The Wind and the Willows. Disney's Wind and the Willows. I do not remember that much about that version, because I mostly remember the weird stop-motion version of Wind and the Willows more than the Disney one. But as per usual, we can see that Scrooge here is being an absolute jerk, penny pinching And time comes to close up shop. Scrooge takes a long, long walk back to his home, which I know in some versions, Scrooge's walk usually involves making other pit stops. But in this, we're just seeing it straight shot to his home, where we get to see the haunting of the door knocker, which I always find an interesting aspect of A Christmas Carol when it comes to the film, how they do it, because there are times when it's spooky, scary, and sometimes it's laughable, comical. Now, with it being goofy, of course, it's going to be comical. Once Scrooge gets inside the doorway, he goes up a few steps to try to get to his bedroom and is being chased down by the ghost shadow. To at which point, Scrooge freaks the fuck out. What was that? What was that? What was that? And even starts tickling the ghost shadow. But once Scrooge gets inside of his bedroom and hiding in the chair that he has, we get to see the full, goofy Marley ghost. And it is just hilarious how this Goofy is as Jacob Marley, or the Jacob Marley ghost, because we don't really see him again in the flashbacks of the past, which is weird. Part of me wish, I'll probably say this again towards the end, but part of me wishes they would make like an extended version where they add on more to this, where we could actually see Goofy be Jacob Marley in the past. Scrooge, in this instant of meeting Jacob Marley's ghost, is more accepting of the ghosts that are about to visit him than other versions of Scrooge in other films. Because in other ones, Scrooge is like, could we like reschedule this to like maybe tomorrow or one every other day? Meanwhile, in this one, it's just Scrooge going, Now, I'm guessing this is just to move the story along. Bedtime comes, and Scrooge gets his first ghostly visitor for the Ghosts of Christmas, which is Ghost of Christmas Past, being Jiminy Cricket. I kind of find this interesting, because my very first Disney movie I saw in movie theaters was Pinocchio. So yeah, I very much enjoyed seeing Jiminy Cricket as the Ghost of Christmas Past here. Now, when we go to Scrooge's past, for some reason we don't go back as far as the books or other versions will have before. We don't go into Scrooge's childhood. We don't go to Scrooge as a teen. We go to him at his first job at Fezziwigs, at the Fezziwig Christmas party. I'm kind of confused by this, because it's interesting to... What I like about the other film versions is seeing the backstory of Scrooge. You know, about how he grew up, how he had a sister, how he had a mother, and the love that they had for him. And Scrooge had to be hardened and be more concerned about money to get through life. But here it's like, nope, let's hop to his early adulthood. And here in the Fezziwig party, we come across this female duck called Isabel. Don't you mean Daisy? Because that's Daisy Duck right there. Now, this is weird if Daisy Duck going under another name. I know, weird. It's okay. So, Isabel. So we go from the Fezziwig party to many years later, where Isabel gets rejected by Scrooge. We really get to see Scrooge's nastiness right here. How the gold and coins and money has taken over. Now get ready for the next ghost. The Ghost of Christmas Present, who is the giant from Mickey and the Beanstalk. Okay. I mean, the giant from Mickey and the Beanstalk could be jolly at times and funny. I mean, I'm going to say this here, that the ghosts of Christmases that we get in this, I have seen better versions throughout other versions of A Christmas Carol on film. But this is but a lot of these are funny versions of the ghosts. Okay. Especially funny when you see the giant do his similar interactions to like a light and peeking into a house. But we get to, once again, ignoring Scrooge's family, but going to the Cratchit house. Once again, I'll say I wouldn't mind like an extended version being made where we get to see more of Scrooge's family and maybe nephew Fred's celebration, since it's the present and it's supposed to be Christmas Day. But yeah, we get to the Cratchit house, where we see Bob Cratchit and his family celebrating Christmas with little teeny tiny Tim. And I'm sorry, I can't quite get attached to this Tiny Tim. I mean, from what I've seen of other versions of A Christmas Carol on film, there's more screen time for Tiny Tim in those than what we get here. But per usual of A Christmas Carol, Scrooge asks, what comes of the boy? If these events remain unchanged, the boy will die. So the giant disappears, leaving Scrooge in Melville Road, next to Bob Cratchit's house. Then we start getting smoke, fog, whatever you want to call it. And we get Scrooge next to a tombstone and looking up at the ghost of Christmas yet to come, smoking a cigar. So that's where all the smoke is coming from. Now, you can get somewhat teary-eyed when they show the Cratchit family at a gravestone, because you know it's Tiny Tim's grave. And it is sad. Then we get a scene of two weasels, I guess, starting to fill in a grave. And just by the first look at this, of them trying to start filling in the grave, you can see whose name is on the grave. I mean, my God. It's Ebenezer Scrooge. It's his grave. You can see it right there, as plain as day. But when Scrooge and the ghosts get near the grave, Scrooge has to ask whose grave this is. Flick. A light. It's Ebenezer Scrooge. And we get the reveal of the ghost of Christmas yet to come being Pete. Pete, has Pete been in anything major around this time? Because I know he's mostly famous for being part of the Goof movies. This is 83? I think here he's more known for being just a bad guy to Mickey, so is that why he's in this role? So we get Scrooge getting knocked into the grave and the coffin kind of opening up into a hell, in which point Scrooge falls into but wakes up inside of his room. And it's Christmas Day. Something I find hilarious is, in other versions of A Christmas Carol, there is some time for Scrooge to change clothes. But in this version, we have Scrooge leaving on his nightgown and fuzzy slippers, but throws on a broken hat that he steps on and a jacket. It's just funny that he just goes out with like that. Now, once he leaves his house, he comes across the duo that was collecting for the poor. Oh, and I might also want to make a note. You can see two characters from the Robin Hood cartoon show up here before Scrooge shows up in front of the duo. But Scrooge gives some money away for helping the poor. And he goes around saying Merry Christmas to people, all being a little nutty upstairs. And that's one thing that I think I like the most about Scrooge McDuck in DuckTales, is that it's this Scrooge, but a bit of both sides of the coin. I mean, early on both versions of the DuckTales series, we see Scrooge being that kind of penny-pinching SOB, but also have a warm heart. So after dropping off money to the duo collecting for the poor, Scrooge comes across his nephew Fred and accepts his offer to join him for his Christmas dinner party, which kind of surprises him. Then we get Scrooge leaving a toy shop with a bag full of, I'm assuming, just toys, which we see later on is a little bit more than toys. Once he gets to Bob Cratchit's place, he goes from giddy and happy to having to go put on a serious face for a bit. And of course he knocks on the door and asks him why he's not at work and blah blah blah. In which case, you leave me no choice
but to give you
Toys!
yes, toys. No.
He makes him his partner, and we all have a happy ending. And somehow there was a full turkey inside the bag of toys. And we have this nice little ending with Tiny Tim and all the kids having fun with Scrooge on the rocking chair. I gotta give it to Alan Young here. He prior to this, with the recording that was done for the Disney characters on the Christmas Carol record, album, whichever you want to call it, and with this role of Scrooge, he stayed with that character all of his life till about when he died. It passed away. The last time we heard Alan Young voice Scrooge McDuck, was for the DuckTales game being remastered. And while it was great to have him come back, you could tell he was older. Now, I know nowadays that David Tennant has taken over the role, and I think he's tried to throw in as much Alan Young as he possibly can hint at here and there, which is nice. But the one thing that annoys me about this is we don't get too much of Scrooge's family in here, which we get a lot, which we do get some info of in the current DuckTales series. Or at least as far as the DuckTales, Scrooge McDuck, not the Ebenezer. Well, never mind. Since they kind of borrow from it, yeah. But to me, overall, this is a fun little version of A Christmas Carol that I always enjoy and like watching when I can. I mean, as I stated, it's about 20-some minutes to watch, so it's not that difficult to just sit down and watch it. I mean, I know there's going to be... I know that there is other versions of A Christmas Carol out there on film that are more true to the source than this one, but I don't care. I mean, like I said, fun little watch. So yeah, that's it for this first Christmas video of 2020. And now I get to move forward with the Muppets Christmas Carol, which hopefully won't be too difficult to watch or record the audio for.